and welcome to Love Always Self. I'm Shyra.
Hi, y'all. I'm Karista, and thank you so much for joining us on this episode of Love Always Self.
Hi.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Happy 2024. Hope the end of 2023 was delightful and you were able to celebrate with friends, family, looking forward to the new year, everything that, all the potential that lies in front of us, too.
Yes, we are super excited about some of the potentials that we're going to be talking about today.
We do have an announcement, which we're super excited.
Yes.
But first, Shyra, how are you?
I am looking forward to settling into all the things that we're working on, honestly. And I'm happy you're here, and we are recording on a day that we don't normally record on, so we've got more time, and so we're able to chat a little bit longer, and it's just been great. So yeah, I'm doing pretty good. How about you?
Nice. I'm doing better today. This weekend has been a little roller coastery, you know, even just the past couple of weeks have been a little intense with all of the holiday stuff. And it's not just regular holiday stuff in my life. I also have my spouse's birthday and my mom's birthday in December. So it's just like one thing after another, like every weekend starting in November with Thanksgiving. So it feels pretty constant sometimes, but you know, now we're over the hump and we've had a bunch to celebrate and a bunch of adventures. So a couple episodes ago, I alluded to a surprise gift that I gifted my husband for his birthday. And we actually went on a trip. We went to Buffalo, New York, which most people would probably be like, Buffalo? Why Buffalo? Well, we are avid Cowboys fans. So yes, we do like football. I don't think I've ever actually said that on this podcast. So now you know a little more about me. But avid Cowboys fans. So we actually went to the Cowboys and Bills game in Buffalo, and one of our girlfriends.
Hey, Kayla.
Yes. Hi, sweetie. I love you so much, and I greatly appreciate you. Kayla is somebody that we met in our retreat that we went on in May. We do have an episode where we reviewed the retreat, so check that out down below. But she was gracious enough to host us at her house. And I cannot, like, when I say it felt like staying with family, like it felt like staying with family. It doesn't even feel like it's
That's amazing.
like, and it not just like blood relatives, but like soul family. We had such a blast. And it's just so cool to think about having met a person once in person. We've talked a few times, you know, over the phone and over text over the past 6 months, but then to have that person trust us to come into their home and hang out with them and let us borrow their car and show us around the city that they live in. Like it's just like the coolest thing. And I felt like it was such a gift that they were giving us as well.
Well, and she's just got the biggest heart.
Oh my God.
Yeah, that makes sense.
She's a pretty phenomenal young lady for sure. But it was funny to me because like on the way back, you know, it was Mercury retrograde. It just went back out of retrograde on the 1st of January. So I thought this was really interesting how it was at the end of the year, and Mercury retrograde is all about, you know, reevaluation, reflection,
The Rees.
Yeah, reviewing, even rest or renewing. I like that one too. That one works really well for this. And I felt like I got a lot of experiences with Mercury retrograde. It wasn't terrible.
Yeah.
Like, I think Mercury retrograde gets a lot of bad rap, but
Mostly with technology.
Yeah. And so we were traveling, which it's not necessarily recommended to, you know, plan travel during Mercury retrograde, because when you're flying,
That's terrifying.
there's a lot of like communication going on in the skies, in the airport, you know, in the airlines, between people. Like, it's just a lot of technology being used.
My head went to a horror movie just now, but that's cool. Yeah.
No Final Destination. And so the day we were supposed to fly back, our flight was actually scheduled for 7:30 in the evening out of Buffalo, and there were no direct flights back to Austin. So we knew we had a layover in Chicago. And when I booked it, there was only a 50-minute layover time frame between landing and flying out of Chicago. And I was a little nervous about that when I scheduled it. And so when I pulled up the airline app on my phone that morning to check, it already said that it was delayed. Like my first flight out of Buffalo was delayed.
Oh no.
And I was a little worried, but it wasn't like the primary feeling. I actually still felt pretty peaceful most of the day, but it was because I realized, like, worst case scenario, we either stay another night in Buffalo or we stay a night in Chicago and we make it home the next day. Like, it is what it is.
I mean, but the fact that that's the space that you were in just really does put a stamp on the fact that you had a great trip.
I agree. Had it been a stressful trip, I don't know if I would have been in the headspace to not continue that stressful nature. But I had this moment of realization sitting next to my spouse, and I was like, you know what? Look how relaxed he is. He's not worried about this at all. There's nothing that I can do to control the weather or what's causing the delay. So the only choices that I have right now are panic or give it up to the universe. I chose the latter. And the whole day it said delayed. And then it said we were going to miss our second flight. And so I'd called the airline a couple times to be like, so what's going to happen? And they're like, well, we can change your whole flight around. And I was like, no, I'm going to at least try and make it out of Buffalo and do the first leg of our trip, because there are direct flights from Chicago to Austin. So I didn't want to do that. And so they were like, well, if you miss the flight, you're just going to have to deal with it in Chicago. And I was like, okay. I even took a moment and like looked up hotels around the airport, and I was like, okay, there are some. Okay. But I didn't make any rash decisions. Was that I think imperative in this experience, and even in this Mercury retrograde for me, is there was no reactionary responses.
So you weren't making decisions based off of fear.
Exactly. 100%. Right. And so honestly, how it all turned out was we left an hour later than we were supposed to from Buffalo. We landed in Chicago. They had delayed the second flight, and we made it on and made it home the same night that we were supposed to. Just arrived an hour later, which was fine. We were so excited when we got on the plane. We were like, we made it.
That is amazing.
We're going home tonight. But had I reacted and changed the flight, we would have that would have put us behind a whole nother day. My husband would have missed a big meeting at work. There were other things that would have, been impacted. But it was like, no matter what, it's going to all be okay.
What a testament to surrender, which is something we touched on the previous episode. Well, we didn't touch on it. Like the whole story was about that, right?
Yeah.
But how interesting is it that I had that day and had that story with you? We came to several realizations of that surrender. You even asked me at one point, what would have happened had you just like surrendered into it? And you gave yourself space to do that, and it turned out to completely work out the way it was supposed to.
I didn't even think about that, but yeah.
That's wild.
It is wild.
Yeah.
So I
do love a good lesson.
It got me thinking about like what have we learned during this last Mercury retrograde? These little things that have maybe pointed to areas of our lives that we need to take that time to just reflect on, and how we're reacting to them or versus responding to them. And what can we do to bring that forward, going into 2024? Because I just thought it was so wild that it ended on January 1st. So it ended the 2023 year and welcomed the 2024 year with Mercury in retrograde, which again, all about communication.
I have all these thoughts running through my head right now. And one I'm just going to touch on really quick, but like my first thought is we can do this at any time, right? With any retrograde that we go through. Mercury retrograde, I guess. She's better at the astrology thing than I am, but
all of the planets go into retrograde at some point. Yeah.
See?
Yeah. Except for moon and sun. Sounds obvious to me, but that may not be obvious to everybody else.
I was going to say something super stupid, like the moon isn't even real. So it's not even a planet.
It's just a satellite.
It's a satellite anyway. It was placed there. So there are really good conspiracies out there. So anyway, I was just thinking about the fact that like, because we really did set the calendar, right? We as in the human race. And we set this calendar. And when we set this calendar and labeled it January and gave it the first of a month and all the things, right? And I do believe, like, historically speaking, that it was probably set based off of some, moon cycles, weather, all the things, right?
Yeah, weather, seasons.
Thank you. That's the word. But it doesn't necessarily mean that we can't take the stance and the approach to do the renewing,
the reevaluation,
right? During any of these cycles is when we can apply that. And so I like the approach of taking it as a New Year's. A lot of people do it as New Year's resolutions, which is great. It's just to remember not to only wait once a year, right?
Because we don't all celebrate the same New Year.
It's true.
And the calendar has not been the same throughout the entire human race. And the first of the year has not been the same either, because it was, if you look at astrology, right? Aries is the first sign of the astrological wheel. And that is in March, which is considered the birth, right? So the beginning, whereas winter is like the death. Right? Yeah. You see the cycle there? And so it was, I want to say, was it Julius Caesar? I don't know, that created this calendar. I could be wrong. I think it's the Gregorian calendar that we use. But that's not what everybody used to follow, several thousand years ago. So
this is wild.
Again, to your point, I agree with you. We shouldn't have to wait until the beginning of the year to set our intentions to do something different.
It's the intention setting.
Because that's exactly what New Year's resolutions are. They're intentions.
And a lot of people, to their credit, a lot of people, and I've done it, that setting an intention and setting a goal for a renewal period of your life is fantastic. And I salute all of those efforts, and we're doing it ourselves. So I think that the intention and the momentum behind it, again, you can do this at any time. You can start at any time. And so I just think it's really cool in one aspect, because it's probably one of the few times of an entire cycle, is what I'm going to call it, instead of a year, where a majority of the human collective is participating in that, which is rather special.
Ooh, I wonder if we set a collective intention. Yeah. On the same day, how that would influence energies. That would be wild.
That would be amazing, depending on what it is. That would be absolutely amazing.
Right.
Yeah.
But yeah, I agree with you. It's never too late to take time to reflect.
Yeah.
And even though we're past this last Mercury retrograde season, you still have time right now in this moment to think back. What over the last 3 to 6 weeks have you experienced? What maybe caused some irritation? What kept coming up? What patterns were you seeing? Were you full of reactions, or were you noticing that you were responding? How were other people reacting or responding to you? Yeah. Because, even though we have tiny tangent here, but even though we have our own choices on how we feel and navigate things, when we are with other people, especially loved ones, people that we lived with, we still influence them.
Yes.
Because you said this really well, that you're in a dance together.
Yeah.
And when we're dancing together, you have to realize you're communicating through the tiny little movements in your fingers, and you're influencing where your dance partner is going to go next. Yeah. And so, while we choose how we respond or react, it doesn't always happen the way we want to in those moments. And so knowing that we still influence each other.
That's right.
I think is important. But anyways, I digress.
No, it's a great point, because it is a collective, and especially for those in your direct household, and the amount of emotion that goes behind the people that you live with, whether it's a friend or a partner, or
Kids,
family member, right? Like kids, there's an influence in your emotions, and they're a lot stronger than just your everyday person that you don't know very well, right? So it is a dance. I definitely believe that you can be in control of your own emotions and how you respond and react. But I also believe that it is a collective process, and that the influence of those around you that you really care about can influence that. So, okay. Moment. So yeah, I think that with new and renewing comes a lot of change sometimes too. And what are things that worked for you in the past and maybe are no longer working, to reevaluate and present yourself with something new for the future. So one thing that I know
in that same breath that we are putting our intentions towards.
Exactly. I know personally speaking, I have my entire life, I have always been fascinated with, and I've had a very close relationship with either fashion or home decor or styling and little trinkets and things like that, and where art looks and how it makes a room feel. And this has always been like a dream for me. And so Carrie and I, who also has a love for home decor, and we've had this for a minute, and we've commented it down below in the description, but we've had Divine Living Style and Decor, where we've been offering more of an e-design service for those that have had residential homes, or even those that you're renting, to come in and help you with your home decor. But we are certified in it. And we went to school for this, and we are launching our home staging business.
Yes.
With Divine Living Style and Decor. So I am so freaking pumped.
Yeah. I'm so excited too. And I'm excited about the shift in how we work. Yeah. And, I'll speak for myself. I do love aspects about my job. I love working with people. I love, supporting their emotional state and holding this space for them. And so I'm really excited to move into helping create the space for themselves. Yes. And so I love how this is going to look as well, like our being able to get out into the world and go to people's houses and give advice and meet with them and go shopping. Like, shopping is just, retail therapy has always been,
doesn't feel like work at all.
Therapy.
Yeah.
And so being able to do that and being able to work with my best friend.
I know.
I'm super excited about this creative venture that we're going into, because I think that both of us have been in fields where we haven't had a lot of room to create, or it's been creation within an institutionalized
construct
process. Yeah, construct. Yeah. And so I think this is going to be really special for us and just our creative, loving nature going forward.
So I'm so excited. And I've been filming a lot of content, just even in my own personal home. And you see a little bit of it in this room even, I designed this room with you, like, specifically for our podcast. And so the colors in here are a reflection of that. And, when we mentioned on the other episode that we have all this stuff behind the camera, that is what that stuff is. It is a lot of decorative items to bring into our stock for our home staging business.
Yeah. Now we'll be doing the home staging, focusing mainly on the central Texas area, so Austin and surrounding areas. But as you mentioned, we also have the e-design business, and that we can do virtually. So you can check that out if you want any help creating and embracing your space.
Yes. And everything will be linked down below, so you can go check that out. Yeah, I'm so excited.
Yes, it's going to be a great year. It's going to be busy. We're going to be busy. So to our friends and our family, please be patient with us.
Oh my gosh.
Just because there's distance or time between our conversations doesn't mean we love you any less. It's just we're trying to get this going because we're we're excited to create.
We are. We're very excited to create. And, and just kind of going back into, from the announcement, soothing back into this podcast a little bit. I wanted to chat about this a little bit too, because this has had a profound impact on our lives. And I know that going from, I'm still working a day job. You're still working a day job. We have this podcast. This podcast can be very time consuming to make this content. And we do everything, right? So we record, we take it, we edit for YouTube and for any of the
social
media, all those reels, everything that you see on our social media platforms for this podcast. It's all done by Carrie and I. We have help with our website. So thank you, Stephanie. She's amazing. So she helps us out with that. But yeah, everything else has been us. And so it's time consuming, and it consumes a significant portion on our weekends to get that taken care of. So when we decided to reduce our episodes to twice a month, we did that because the amount of capacity that it also takes to start a new business and something that's going to be this big for us. And again, like she mentioned, that kind of a business, you're out in the field. And we have had clients already, which I didn't expect so quickly.
We also have shirts.
We have shirts.
Yay. So I know you probably can't read them very well, but it says Divine Living Style and Decor. Yay. Professional. So profesh.
So when we come into your house, we'll all be uniformed. But yeah, so I mean, this is, it's a massive learning curve.
I mean, so is the podcast.
You know how many times it shocks me when we walk into this room and we hit record, that the amount of learning, I mean, and Carrie knows this about me because I'm somewhere in between a creative and a tech nerd, right? So like,
she's also a perfectionist.
I'm also a perfectionist. Like, I even want those little pop-ins down below to like actually move, but I haven't made myself enough time to learn that one. But it's kind of like they're called lower thirds.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. Animated lower thirds. So like to learn OBS, which is what we record our episodes in, to operate those lower thirds to come into the screen, which is I'm using a system called Stream Deck, to going from our laptop camera on our former episodes to an actual Sony ZV-E10 that's sitting inside of a small rig that's plugged into a cam link into the laptop and our microphones, all of this.
And the lighting, the professional lighting.
That guy was expensive. And just the Rode Procaster 2.
Like we had no idea about any of these products or, the software to use to edit, the software to use to create the reels or the special effects or the B-roll or all these other things. This was like a huge learning curve since 2021. It's been 2.5 years.
Yeah. And that's honestly like just with this podcast alone, as you're watching this episode, this is episode number 130. It's 130 episodes that we had to learn what we were doing. But
just so we know, it aired on January 3rd. Do you see the synchronicity?
Oh, nice.
Okay. Anyways,
I had a brain moment. I was like, what? That's so cool. 1-3. Threes are prominent lately. That's interesting. So this is just like one of those things where I remember, like,
just remember.
I'm emphasizing the
remember.
Gosh. So I'm remembering all the amount of knowledge that has been gained between the two of us to produce this, right? And all the knowledge that we've gained to go into this next adventure that we're working on in conjunction with doing this. And so if I can do it, if Carrie can do it, honestly, we're brilliant women. So, hey, whatever. But anyone can do this.
Yeah. It absolutely helps having a teammate for sure.
Yeah.
So you don't have to learn it all by yourself.
And it's way more fun.
It is way more fun.
Way more fun.
We laugh a lot.
We do. The poor thing. She has to do a lot of cuts.
But I don't cut the laughing.
We I turn the volume,
Yeah.
what they call volume keyframes, in case you're wondering. So, but yeah, I mean, it is kind of wild when I look around this space, and every day I come in here and I remember what it took, the countless hours of YouTube videos and Googling and different chats that I had to join in Discord to like ask questions, and you too, just to figure all this stuff out. And even when I go back sometimes and I look at our earlier episodes and the thumbnails we would use, and even still the thumbnails, I could put more effort into that, but it's wild to me to remember where we started. And it only gives me more gratitude for where we are now. And it gives me more momentum to where we're going.
So much beauty in that statement right there. Because you're right. It's so easy to get caught up in the moment and be like, what I'm doing right now is not good enough or not enough. And when you just take a moment to reflect back on 6 months, a year ago, 2 years ago, like, whoa, giant steps forward have been made. And in the future, giant steps forward will also have been made.
Seriously, I mean, if you think about it, the very first episode we ever did was during
audio only,
during the VOD, and it was audio only, and then we pumped it up to Zoom, and we recorded using Zoom, and we weren't even editing at that point.
No, we were using our website manager to help us edit. And then we had somebody helping us with social media as well, and once we got Descript, Descript was a game changer.
Thank you, Descript.
Yeah.
Feel free to sponsor us. So all of our episodes are actually edited by Descript.
Not by Descript, on Descript.
On Descript.
By us.
Mostly her. So yeah, this is a time for me, I know, to feel excited and to take the perspectives of all the things that we have learned in the last year alone, which is like wild.
You know, this is such a great example of like our manifestation abilities, right? So the daydreaming that occurred, and I'm sure it wasn't just over the past couple of years, but it had been a long time, because you did do fashion shows and things like that. So you were deep into style for quite a long time. And you had this daydream for a while, and then we would talk about it and just like, oh, wouldn't that be fun? And we would daydream together. Like, how would that look? Oh, is that something we really want to do? And then it was us investing our time investigating, how do we move forward on this dream? And then it was action steps. And so again, like, key factors that manifestation's not just dreaming.
Yeah.
It requires effort.
And we've gone through so much personally and individually in our personal lives, right? Like the growth that we have.
This last year has been a doozy.
Yeah, this last year was quite tough. You know, personal losses and heartache from that, and time that we've needed to recover from those, and still somehow be able to do these episodes, and
injuries and surgeries and natural disasters and
like, I don't even know if half of our audience realizes that, like, some of the very first episodes we ever put out, I was recovering from a hysterectomy. Like that to me is also wild. And like and you didn't you have surgery?
I didn't. John did.
John did. Yeah, that's right. So John did. It's one of those reflective moments that I tend to love to have, especially when you and I are getting all pumped up, because this new adventure, it doesn't feel like work. And sometimes I have to check it and I'm like, oh my God, we're going to get paid for this. We're getting paid for this, you know, like, and we're shopping and we're having fun. This is so crazy.
No, don't get me wrong. There are aspects of it that are difficult, like figuring out the software to manage our inventory and where it's going, and
the licensing and like the warehouse and all that. Yeah.
It's definitely been and will continue to be a learning experience.
Yeah.
Because every experience will have lessons.
All of them. Some of them may feel like a lesson. Some of them may not feel like a lesson, but they're still lessons. No doubt. One last adventure that I want to just touch on that happened so recently, as in yesterday. I had the pleasure of meeting with Angela Frazier. She's the mom on Meet the Fraziers, Matt Frazier's mom. And she's...
Now, I didn't know who and hadn't heard of the Fraziers before
Okay.
you started telling me about them.
Oh, okay. Oh, he's a joy to watch. He has a YouTube channel, Matt Frazier, and
it's a family of mediums?
Yeah. So, well, it's just her and her son, but her mom was also one.
Okay.
And
so it's like a family passing down thing.
Exactly. And wow, she's so good. Like I know for a fact she's legit because there's no way she would have known anything that she was telling me. Like, it's not published anywhere. So,
well, and you even said like there was no video chat, so she couldn't visually see you.
She couldn't see me.
She couldn't see in your room.
Right.
You said she didn't have social media.
No.
So how does she?
Yeah. I don't know how she knew half the things that she said.
And you said even the form to fill out was super small too.
It was like 4 boxes of information, I think. Like pick a day and a time. And I believe my first name, my email address, which I just use like one of my like personal ones that I don't share, and then a Skype ID, so she knew who to call. And my Skype ID is not. It's pretty bland. So that alone, that was such a special meeting for me yesterday. I got a visit from my grandma, and you know what's interesting is. And what I talked about with her a little bit was the abilities that I have grown and learned that I have in connecting with those that you don't physically see with your own eyes sometimes. And just being able to learn that connection, it's ridiculously hard. And I know mediums and psychics ask this all the time. Well, if you are a medium, can't you read for yourself? And I'm like, well, the problem with that is that my brain and the neural pathways in my brain that tell myself a story on a daily basis get in the way, right? I will want to create my own narrative that will benefit me in some way. So versus allowing myself to listen. So that's why I don't trust it as much as I do when I'm doing it for somebody else.
I agree with that. Like for me, I will second guess responses that I get for myself when I ask a question. Yeah. Like, I'm like, oh no, that double digit number, that's not it. No, give me the next one, no. Okay. No, I need reassurance. Give me like 4 digits, like, and so,
exactly. I don't like that response. We should try something else.
I'm making it up. I'm looking for it. Yeah.
But it was just so exciting, like to hear someone and so legit in her practice, first of all, and just so kind and funny and kind of at the same time direct, which was really refreshing, but the information that was shared. And one of the things that she shared with me, because she does have a really good focus on your future, the power of being in the present, what's going on in your present and the future, right? So one of the things that she shared had a lot to do with our growth going forward. And so
that's exciting.
It made me even more optimistic. I was already optimistic because, again, momentum and intention, right? But like just hearing it from a complete stranger who is as talented as she is in her ability to connect, and to hear the message from my grandmother that what we're doing, keep going and move forward. It's going to work out, and that this is our year for that. And I was like, you have no idea what you're saying right now. And I love every minute of it.
Well, isn't that supportive of our intentions too?
Exactly. Exactly.
Because we intended to make this announcement, on today's podcast. Right. And so to receive that message yesterday,
I know,
that's very much in alignment.
It's like,
yeah. Yeah.
Mind blowing. So that actually led me to wanting to use the deck that we're using today. You ready?
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, guess the time it is.
Let's show off our deck.
Let's show off our deck. It's time for the collective card reading.
All right. So the deck that we're using today is the Angel Guide Oracle deck by Kyle Gray. You pulled out 3 cards.
Yeah, and this was interesting because I pulled out 3 cards.
I had my deck out.
Yeah, so I was like, oh, she's going to use her deck. So like,
You threw those cards back in.
yeah, so I looked at them and then I threw them back in and I was like, oh, maybe those were just for us. And then the exact same now, and I shuffled in a way where you do like 2 different stacks.
Right. Where you split it up, one on each, and then you put them back together, right?
Right. And then I started shuffling. And then the 2 cards that came first were the exact same 2 cards that I originally pulled. And I don't know what the third one is because I didn't look at that one.
Okay. So first one today is Courage and Bravery. This card is really, really beautiful. So this angel, she looks like a female warrior with dark purple wings. She's holding a shield that has a sun with a purple center. And she's holding, it looks like a big staff with maybe a flag that is attached to it. It looks very celestial.
Yeah.
Her shield.
Good words.
It looks like the stars are not only in the sun, but behind the sun as well. It's beautiful, beautiful card.
It is beautiful. And before I look into the handy dandy book that comes with this deck, I want to say that the leaps that you and I have taken in these adventures that we've been creating, starting something that we had no idea with what we're doing, making it so public, and then moving forward into this purpose.
And even making parts of our personal lives public too.
Oh my God. Yeah. Which I never thought I'd do outside of like some very selected images on social media, but that requires courage and it requires bravery. And so if you're considering this, if you're considering doing something new that you've never done before, feel into that courage, get past the fear. Cause like what Carrie, experienced in her moments of surrendering on her travels, once you get past that fear and you utilize that courage and bravery, you actually realize so much magic and flow happens. And it's taken a long time for me to understand that, and probably a lot more just in the last few days.
One of the biggest things that I have to remind myself about courage and bravery is it's not without fear. Like being courageous and brave doesn't mean that you don't feel fear.
Absolutely.
It means that you are acting and moving forward in spite of that fear. Despite that fear.
Let's see here. I'll pick a couple sentences so I don't read straight the whole book so you can buy it yourselves. You have the heart of a warrior. You want to do what's right, but it isn't always easy. Angels are surrounding you in a light of courage at this time and guiding you to do what you know deep down in your heart is right. Being brave isn't about being emotionless. The angels are reminding you that it's okay to feel, and your vulnerability will allow you to tap into an even greater inner strength.
Oh, 100%. Couldn't agree with that more. That vulnerability is, in my mind, equivalent to being brave.
Absolutely.
I was also reminded that, with the word warrior, we have a tendency to connect that to some sort of like action, physical fighting, warring with our neighbors or whatever. And like being a warrior can still be being a warrior for peace.
Yeah.
And like, I believe this was in like Buddhism or Taoism, and being that person that stands for peace, not by fighting, but by maybe like reasoning or being an example, by loving as the action forward rather than fighting.
Yeah. I think I'm getting a message from my new angel friend, and I keep being pointed to the banner that's floating in this card.
That's interesting because I was wondering if there's any symbolism with the flag banner.
Yeah, and I just keep hearing to shine your individuality.
Let your flag fly.
Yes, that's exactly right. And let that be the thing that comes up the most in this new year.
So letting the joy of being you guide you in your creations going forward.
Right.
I love that.
It was just really interesting the way that message came through just now, because I knew that was on the card, and I kind of a little bit saw it in the card description, but I got the actual mental image and then I looked down at the card.
Interesting.
Yeah.
All right. Card number 2, harmony and resolution. Isn't that funny that we were mentioning New Year's resolutions? This card, also beautiful in its own way. This one, it feels so much more airy. Everything is kind of has this iridescent, see-through-ish feel. So this angel, she's got like the rainbow colored wings, but it's kind of like this like tie-dye look, but it's very soft and almost like it looks like it would be like cloud-like, you know? And she is holding her arms up to the sky, and it looks like her eyes are closed. She has this long, white, flowing, and turquoise hair. And it reminded me of the angel that Angela Frazier had told you about, because they were represented by the color teal or aqua. And then this angel's body is like sparkling, again, a celestial look of just having like the stars coursing through her body, with the brightest light being at her heart center.
Yeah. It's a beautiful card. I love this, like this peaceful state that I see the reflection of in this card. So I'm going to read on this one just a little bit, just because I haven't seen this card, although harmony and resolution does sound pretty ideal. Angels of harmony and healing are with you to help you resolve any conflicts that have been disturbing your inner peace. You are being encouraged to call in the light of God and surrender any concerns you have so that the divine can resolve them. And I'm going to just read from the first sentence of the extended message in this book. Angel guidance is encouraging you to stand down from any conflicts that are going on in your life right now. Take a step back to collect your thoughts and breathe. Angels cannot help you unless you create space for them to intervene, and they are with you now and willing to restore peace.
This just reminds me of the story that I was sharing. The moments of peace to reflect, okay, well, what should we do? Should we take action and reschedule our flight, or should we just wait and see?
Right.
And allow the solution to come to me. The solution ending up being it happened, all on its own. But allowing that space for the guidance.
So beautiful. So beautiful. I absolutely love this.
Card number 3. I knew it. This is angelic protection.
Are we being serious right now?
Was that the third
card?
That
was the third card. Okay,
She's stunned. And then, let me clarify, because I watched Shyra continue after the first 2 were pulled and you saw them. You continued to shuffle like several times until this one came out.
You don't understand. I have full body chills right now. Okay.
There's no doubt that the first 3 cards that were pulled were actually meant for this recording.
What I want you to understand the amount of odds that this is, right? There are 44 cards in this deck, okay? And the first time I shuffled for a while, these are the 3 that came out. And I was like, I set them down face down because I never look at these cards. I want to be in surprise and delight with the rest of everyone listening or watching this, right? And so I didn't look at them at first, but then Carrie had her own deck with her today. And I was like, oh, well, maybe she's going to use hers. I was like, you know what? I really want to look at these. And you said that too. You're like, I do too.
Yeah.
And I was like, we're looking, and I'll just reshuffle.
I didn't even look at them when you looked at them though.
I know, because you were shuffling yours.
Yeah.
So I looked at them and I stared at them for a while, and I was like, oh, these are beautiful. And I was like, oh, nice messages. I didn't read the book about them or anything like that. Right. And so I was just like, oh, okay. And then I put them back in the deck. And then I put the deck away.
Not just on the top, but you shoved them in the deck.
I shoved them in the deck individually, and I put them away into the box that they come in, and I put them away. And Carrie's like, puts her cards away. And I was like, oh, we are going to use the angel deck. I was like, okay. So I reshuffled. The first card was on the bottom. And so I was like, okay, we're going to just split this in half, and I'm going to do 2 different decks, right? Like 2 different stacks. And then I'm going to shuffle them in 2 different stacks, one at a time. And then I'm going to reshuffle them with my hands.
Right.
And then the first 2 cards that came out are still the first 2 cards that I had originally pulled.
And then the third card.
And then the third card comes out.
Right.
And I didn't look at it I didn't look at that one because I was like, I already know what the first two cards are. And the fact that it's still the same card after all that.
I don't know the odds, but they're pretty low.
They're really low.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm in shock. I'm in shock.
So we've had this card pop up multiple times on our episodes, but this one is Angel Protection. This gentleman is this very like strong, stoic, again, another warrior-esque angel. His wings are like on fire behind him. And he is in a blue suit, and he's got a blue shield that looks to be made of like glass or ice. He's got the nice long broadsword that's also in blue. And he actually also has this, I don't even know if it's like this like crystal aura in front of him or if that's behind him. It's kind of almost like he's weaved into it just around his chest and up above him.
Angelic protection was something, this is so wild, that came up in my conversation with Angela Frazier yesterday. We talked about this quite a bit actually in our conversation. So like I didn't give her any information about me really until the very, very end when we were about to hang up. And I mentioned that we have a podcast and that I do channeling and I have learned abilities to connect. And we discussed doing our protection. She discussed with me about doing prayer and always before you connect that you go through meditation. And apparently my grandmother kept throwing out the meditate to grow your ability stronger and to be more powerful in that. And so the fact that angel protection or angelic protection is coming back up again, it just reminds me of even how powerful our thoughts are, right? And again, brings me back to the power of intention and what that can do for you. And so every time I do the protection bubble, the energy bubble that surrounds me and you and my home and any of my loved ones, my dog, everything, when I'm going into those meditative states, because I only want to allow and let light in and let love in, and that's it, and not play in any other space than that. And it has nothing to do with like a fear of some darkness or blah, blah, blah. Nothing to do with that. None of that actually messes with me, right? Because I know how powerful we are. I'm aware of that 100%.
Yeah.
It has everything to do with just making sure that my intentions are pure.
It's whatever you give power has power.
Exactly.
I don't know why I thought of this while you were sharing that, but you know, I thought about in our relationships, this word intention in our relationships. And I was thinking about when we get in arguments, you know, we're not intending to hurt somebody's feeling. We're not intending to set somebody off, right? And we tell somebody, like, we say, I've hurt your feelings, and you tell me that I've hurt your feelings, and I tell you, well, that wasn't my intention. So my question to you now is, what was your intention?
Right.
And are you making sure that you're communicating that intention through how you're speaking and how you're treating people?
It's so true.
And so it's not about saying, well, that wasn't my intention. It's about figuring out what your intention is.
Yep.
So that you can support that through what you do. Otherwise, it's just like this free for all, like doing things without awareness. And again, you may not be truly intending to hurt somebody's feelings, but what is your intention? Was your intention to make them feel loved? And if it was, okay, well, whatever I said right there, that obviously didn't speak love to you, that spoke hurt to you. Well, then I need to reevaluate how I'm speaking to you and not flicking the microphone. So that was just the thought that came through when you were mentioning intentions again.
I love every moment about that. And honestly, like, we have so much to learn all the time, but it starts with you. And I know we've said that on several occasions, but that awareness aspect, that self-awareness, when you start to build upon that, you start to understand more about why you say the things you say, why you react this way you react, why you are interested in things you're interested in, how you like to love, how you like to be loved, how you like to feel, what kind of foods you enjoy, you know, what kind of clothing you like to wear, all the things. And when you start becoming connected so wholly with yourself in that way, your doors open and it creates a completely different environment for yourself. And I'm living proof of that, and you're living proof of that. So I hope that 2024 brings you nothing but all of those things, and let it be surrounding you in the most blissful way and the most beautiful love and light, as we always wish and intend for you.
Let's set our intentions, guys.
Let's do this.
Let's make 2024 better. The best year of the 2020s.
The best. We really need a good year of 2020s.
We've set a low bar, guys.
Well, let's set another high bar by hitting that like and subscribe button. Notification bells so you can stay notified of all of our future content. And we have social media, you guys.
We are at Love Always Self on YouTube Shorts, TikTok, Instagram, and Facebook. So you can find us there. Or you can go to our website at lovealwaysself.com. You can find this deck, the Angel Guide Oracle deck by Kyle Gray, in our shop. You can just hit shop at the top and click on Amazon, and it'll show you a list of all the things, all the products that we use, including a lot of the products that you mentioned today as far as our podcast equipment. Yeah. And again, we've got lots of decks to whip around, so you can take a look at those and enjoy decks.
And again, we're really, really excited about the future for the two of us, not only continuing on Love Always Self, but also continuing with our brand new and enhanced Divine Living Style and Decor.
And you can find that at divinelivingstyleanddecor.com, as well as on Instagram and the book face, or no?
It's only on Instagram and Pinterest at the moment.
Okay.
But soon to be coming to YouTube.
Yes. Yeah. So divinelivingstyleanddecor.com on Instagram or on Pinterest.
Yay. And Happy New Year again, everybody.
Yes.
We hope you have a wonderful and beautiful day.
We wish you the best year ever. And don't forget to love first.
Love last.
And love always.
Bye, everybody.
Love y'all.
Hey, listener, thank you so much for taking the time to be with us in this moment. We hope you enjoyed today's episode, and we look forward to our next connection.
Don't forget to like, subscribe, and follow to stay notified of new content from Love Always Self. If you have any questions or topics you'd like for us to discuss, please hit us up on any of our social media platforms linked in the show notes below.
I'm Karista.
And I'm Shyra.
And until next time, remember to love first,
love last,
and love always. Love Always Self podcast is meant for entertainment purposes only. We do not make any warranties about the completeness, reliability, and accuracy of the information presented in this podcast. Any action you choose to take upon the information in this podcast is strictly done so at your own risk, and we will not be held liable for any losses and damages in connection with the use of our podcast. Any and all medical concerns should be addressed with a licensed healthcare provider, as well as any questions that may be derived from the information discussed in this podcast.